Hey everyone, Howie Fisher with Fisher's Flies. Thanks for checking in. This is a phenomenal little ant pattern, terrestrial pattern called the Chubby Cupboard. For this fly, I'm using a 50/50 Ultimate Dry Fly hook in size 16 from Fulling Mill. And for my thread today, I'm going to be using 70 denier UTC in black. Use the color thread that you need to match though. This is a really awesome pattern that was developed by Kevin Davidson, who is currently an employee for Avid Max out in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, I know he is from Colorado. But this really is just an innovative, just super creative fly pattern that I think he really knocked it out of the park. So the main material on this is actually cupboard liner. And when you pull this cupboard liner apart like this, it makes the perfect little ant antenna. And you do need to use the specific type of cupboard liner from Duck, which is also owned by Duct Tape. I'll link that in the description below. But you can see, again, it just makes the perfect little ant body with nice segmentation too. So I'm going to start by securing this on at one of those in-between points. I'm going to grab my first material. Kevin Davidson ties these in two separate points. I like to just tie them in at the same time, save a little time. But I'm grabbing a piece of rubber leg from Fulling Mill, and then also a piece of black Krystal flash. And I'm just going to tie them in at the same time, and you tie them in and they kind of will end up pointing backwards. This step isn't necessary, but definitely helps if you put a little bit of super glue on there, especially as you start fishing the fly. It'll prevent that from rubbing or spinning around the hook shank. I'm using ultra dry yarn from Fulling Mill in light dun for the parapost. You can also use white, but in tying this black one, I wanted to use the gray, which is still super visible on the stream, but just a little less offensive, in my opinion. Honestly, it may make no difference to the fish, but who knows? So I'm just going to tie this in, double it over with my scissors, and make sure that it's pointing backwards. This is another thing that Kevin Davidson does differently. So he wraps around these parachute posts and makes them like parachute posts, but I just find tying them backwards works just as well. Next, I'm going to tie in some black saddle hackle. And you want to oversize this a little bit, but I'm going to wrap it forward a few times, and then I'm going to wrap it backwards a few times. This is going to increase the durability and also add some wraps. And then I'm going to secure it a couple times, and then bring my thread through the hackle towards the eye of the hook. Again, going to increase durability. I'm going to go ahead and snip off that excess feather. And this is probably the hardest part of the fly, is pushing all those hackle fibers back while securing the head section of this. If you get a couple trapped, it's not a big deal. You can pluck them out at the end using some tweezers or scissors. I'm going to go ahead and cut off that back section and the post and the legs as well. You want to leave these legs a little long because they do also act and help to stabilize the fly in general. But I'm going to take that excess from the rear portion of the leg and flash, and I'm going to just do the same thing. Bring it up and under, pull it backwards a little bit. That's going to secure it, and it's also going to push it to the side and backwards a little bit. Again, I'm just going to repeat the step of tying in the yarn. I'm going to give it a couple wraps, and then double it over on itself like so, and make sure that's secure. And then I'm going to bring my thread in front of everything, and I'm going to go ahead and give this some whip finishes. And this really is actually a pretty simple fly to tie. It's really just you're repeating the steps for the back portion of the fly for the front portion. And so it's fun. It's a great fly to fish. It floats honestly really well, especially when covered in some floatant, but it's big enough to hold up a dropper fly, but it's also small enough for fish to not really hesitate We fished this a lot on one of our altar trips this past summer in New Mexico. And when bigger terrestrials were getting rejected, this fly seemed to do the trick. So tie them up, fish them. Let me know what you think.